So, something pretty big is going on in Connecticut. There's been a quiet change in how the state values its land, and it's sending, well, shockwaves through its communities. We're talking about landowners seeing their tax bills double, triple, or even quadruple almost overnight. In this explainer, we're going to break down the source material to really understand what's behind this tax shock, who might be pulling the strings, and why some people believe this is all part of a much bigger plan for the state's future. And this one quote really frames the entire conflict, doesn't it? The core argument here is that farmers aren't being outcompeted by developers or priced out because of a hot real estate market. No, the claim is they're being pushed out by a deliberate policy change, a fundamental shift in the rules of the game that's changing everything for property owners. Okay, so what does a tax shock actually feel like for people on the ground? Let's dive into the numbers and see the real-world financial burden that this new system is creating. The scale of this change is just staggering. We're not talking about some minor tax hike here. The source claims that property taxes are suddenly doubling, tripling, and in some cases even quadrupling, all within a single tax cycle. I mean, can you imagine opening a tax bill that's suddenly 4 times what you paid last year? For a lot of people, that's simply not sustainable. So who exactly is getting hit by this? Now, you might think this only targets big farms, but the source material says the net is cast much, much wider. It's not just farmland, it's woods, wetlands, conservation areas, basically any property that's considered unbuildable. So this is an issue that's touching a huge number of property owners all across Connecticut. A tax hike this dramatic doesn't just happen by accident, right? So who changed the rules? Let's dig into the source's explanation of how this new system got put into place. Okay, so the core of the issue, according to the source, is a fundamental shift in control. See, before, valuations were handled locally by your town. This created what the source calls a local buffer, where town officials who actually knew the area had a say. Well, that system is now gone. It's been replaced by a centralized model where all that control has been consolidated at the state level. So what exactly are these new models? The source points to a specific piece of legislation, Public Act 24-70. It claims this is the law that forced these new statewide formulas on everyone, effectively stripping away that local control and getting rid of that crucial town-level buffer that landowners used to have. But according to the source, this isn't just about a new tax formula. No, it's framed as just the first step in a much larger strategic plan. So let's take a look at the long-term stakes and the bigger picture that the source claims is unfolding right now. The source argues that this is the playbook for something called a land value tax system. It alleges a 3-step process. First, centralization. The state takes control of valuation, which is what's happening right now. Second, forced turnover. The new higher taxes make it pretty much impossible for smaller landowners and family farms to hold on. And that, of course, leads to the final stage, consolidation, where all that land is rezoned and bought up by larger entities. So let's be super clear on this point. From this perspective, the financial pressure that's being put on family farms isn't some unfortunate side effect. It's the engine that's driving this entire plan. It's the mechanism designed to move land from small, private owners into the hands of bigger, consolidated interests. So, if you're faced with this pretty alarming analysis, what can you do? Well, the source doesn't just diagnose the problem. It also proposes a direct call to action for anyone who's concerned about these changes. And the key message here is urgency. The source really stresses that this isn't some problem for the future. It's happening right now, and the window to do something about it is closing fast. The recommended actions are direct, and they're all focused on the local level. First, talk to your town officials. Understand how this is really impacting your own community. Second, fight to protect home rule. You know, the principle that local decisions should be made locally, not by some centralized state authority. And finally, take proactive steps to legally protect your own land. And we'll end with this final, stark warning from the source material. It's a statement about how permanent these kinds of structural changes can be. The idea is that once control of the land is centralized, it never comes back to the local level. It's just gone. A really powerful thought to leave you with on the future of property and power in Connecticut.